the ground for possible future attacks on Indian infrastructure, comprising of the transportation system, India's power grid that was also attacked. So that again is leading to uh, high amount of attack on the Indian critical infrastructure. And then you have the recent ransomware attack on Oil India. So we are seeing the sophistication attack and the threat players or actors is gradually increasing to, from syndicates to state actors. These are some of the most vulnerable critical infrastructure. We can see right from dams to energy sector, healthcare, water government. And not surprisingly, that India formed this law that within 6 hours of any security incident, the SOC has to inform certain and NCIPP, NCPICC was formed, National Critical Infrastructure Body. And then another law came in for protection or retention of data for 180 days. So the challenges which typically critical infrastructure has is the legacy system, improbability of the systems itself, silos and lack of integrated architecture and adoption of standards, segregation of policies, frameworks, and governance, especially when it comes to IT and OT. We typically have had IT under the limelight, having all products, all solutions, people, technology, policies, and process put for IT, OT. It's been an afterthought, and we're seeing more and more attacks directed towards OT now. So the integration of IT, OT, and policies, frameworks, products, solution becomes paramount. Ji, you're saying something. Upendra Dixit ji. Okay. Then visibility, well, we have logs that come in from end user devices like antivirus or email security solutions, web security solutions, or from network firewalls, IPS. We don't have logs predominant for a lot of sectors in the area of manufacturing, pharmaceutical, oil, gas, etc., coming from the programmable logical control, RTUs, DCS, SCADA, HMI, hence exposing the larger IT and OT infrastructure to possible threat as they are connected at various layers. And then we have the incident response. Defining and executing the incident response mechanism for the OT network becomes important. Unlike the IT systems, which are in possibly cities, the OT system are at remote locations, sometimes in middle of the sea, which we call offshore. Sometimes there are rigs which are in middle of mountains like Andhra Basin. So it's very difficult to reach and provide incident response. So special mechanism, safety measures are to be taken when we are considering incident response for such operations. Typically, we are well versed in IT with the CIA in terms of security, confidentiality, which ensures that the data is secured, the data is not accessed by unauthorized personnel, and we put the right kind of controls ensuring that confidentiality is protected. While integrity, we try to make sure that the data is not compromised in a way where data is not manipulated with. And availability is where we are trying to make sure that the data is available as and when it is required. And there is no distributed denial of service or compromise on the availability of it. However, we find out as we go further that this charter changes. An additional perspective comes in when we are looking at ICS system or the OT system. The control of the OCS system comes in, as we saw in Colonial Pipeline, as we saw in Stucknex, or as we are seeing or we see in Oil India, we lost, or even AIMS, we lost the control. And then, of course, safety. The devastation, a compromise in an oil pipeline or a rig can have on the population living around can be equivalent to weapon mass destruction being used. So safety becomes very, very important. And of course, the environmental impact of that devastation on the ecosystem has far-reaching implication. And again, safety becomes a very, very important factor in terms of the goals to be achieved in terms of the organization and the objective of the organization for which information security works for. So, good evening. My name is Sanjay Ved. I am an IT security consultant, an auditor, and a facilitator. I hold post-graduation in cybersecurity. I'm a CISM. I'm a CDPO. I'm a CCISO, incident handler, SOC certified SOC analyst, CMI level 7 consultant, and hold various other certificates. I'm ISO 27005 auditor, 27001 auditor, 31,000 auditor. Currently, I am an auditor and consultant and faculty for British Standard Institute, which is in offering various certification and audit services for various form of security and non-security and risk audits and certification. So I hold over 2 decades of experience working in various geographies across the world for some of the prestigious countries, companies, and for their customers. We in this particular webinar are going to cover the trends in cybersecurity, specifically from a SOC perspective. We are going to look at fundamentals and build upon on various nomenclature in SOC and various factors that are involved in SOC. We are going to look at incident response and incident response process. We're going to look at SOC evolution, how SOC is getting transformed with the new elements, and we will share some point of view in terms of an integrated SOC, specifically from an IT and OT integration. So a cybersecurity success is dependent on multiple layer of protection. A SOC is as good as the logs it gets, right? So we need to get logs from various sources, and these sources need to include various factors within the network, may it be the firewalls, the IDSs, the IPSs, the load balancers, etc. From the end user computing, which is the AV, the EDR, the BitLocker, the email security, the CASB kinds of solutions, the reverse proxy solutions, etc. Application security solutions like SAS, DAS, fuzzing solutions, Docker kind of scanning solutions. At the same time, various data encryption solutions, that data masking solutions for security that are put in place, and the IoT and IoT security as well. And the richness of this logs when it comes in gives you some level of maturity of your SOC. And by adding layers of architecture, which looks at contextualizing the data, which looks at ensuring that we have intelligence coming in from various sources, that ensure that we have some form of analytics being put in and some form of threat hunting put in, makes a beautiful architecture of an efficient and an effective security operation. So what all is included in cybersecurity? Cybersecurity is a vast field and ever further developing. We have the endpoint security, application security, data security, IoT, OT, governance risk and compliance, cyber strategy, identity access management, infra and cloud. Why does this become important? As I mentioned, the SOC is as good as the logs it comes. It can only tell you about uh, the visibility in terms of the logs it has been contained. Now we need to go deeper in terms of what are the various facets of security. You can't have an efficient SOC where you're getting logs only from infra side of it, and there are no logs coming from apps. So it's like a house where there are big doors, large locks, but all windows are open, or most windows are open. So we need to make sure that every facet of security in our castle, uh, which is our enterprise, or our government institutions, or our academic institutions, or our defense institutions, or our R&D, DRDO's, ISRO kind of organization, STEAM organization, they are protected. So first, the vice cap we have to wear is what all we are looking at in the syllabus, and the syllabus includes all these areas. Now, the syllabus further expands, and at a very, very surface level, if we define them, we have EDR, antivirus, host-based intrusion prevention system, when it comes to endpoint. And when we are looking at the infra, we have the firewalls, the IDSs, the IPSs, and the infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, software as a service. When it comes to the cloud, and then when we look at identity and access management, we are looking at identity access governance. We are looking at privilege access management. We are looking at authentication and authorization services for the users. And then we are looking at cyber strategy, which needs to take into consideration the roadmap that cybersecurity is a negative goal, and it's an ongoing journey. I remember a quote from the CEO of TalkTalk after her organization was compromised, that adversaries are always going to bring larger ladders as against the wall of cybersecurity we keep. So we need regular audits. We need to create roadmap to move from the current stage to a advanced stage and have a continuous improvement. And this continuous improvement can only be happening if we have an audit with a roadmap, and we follow a standard through which we have a policy, processes, and procedures defined in the organization. Not on whims and fancies, but a well-proven standard. Then we have GRC, governance, risk and compliance, where we look at regulatory compliance. A SOC is also supposed to monitor the regulatory compliances are being met or not, industrial compliances which are met or not, standards which are required to be met are met or not. Similarly, IoT will have connected devices, connected printers, cameras, and other form of devices depending on the nature of the business, industrial devices, in operation technologies, PLCs, RTUs, DCS, and the fire safety and other form of safety depending on the, or the hazardous gases, depending on the nature of the business which one is associated. Data will have to look into the classification and alerts related to highly sensitive data, which can be categorized as secret or top secret or confidential or private or public. And similarly, based on this, we look at the retention of this data, protection of this data, and put the relative controls in order to protect this data, and then have to have the appropriate logs for contextualization of a security incident, and have an intelligence incident response and SOC monitoring based on multiple facets of information we're getting from all these sources. Then we have applications, mobile application, web application. We use DevSecOps for continuous integration, continuous development. We have DAST, we have SAS, which are looking at the code, statistical analysis of the code, dynamic analysis. And then this goes on. This is again a very, very surface level. Again, we go forward, we have the ISO standard 27001, 27005, 31000 for risk management, 9001 for quality management, 45001 for environment risk. And the list goes on. The National Institute of Standard again have further CIF and MF, IEC 62443 for the OT systems or the ICS system. Similarly, when it comes to data protection, what kind of encryption standard we are using, for what kind of purpose are we using? Is it data at rest? Is it data in motion? Is data in use? Is it emails or is it web? So again, there are different kind of solutions. The masking comes in. Data leakage prevention is another solution. As I mentioned, there are various ISO standards we have to further look at and look at interoperability between those standards and how they are there in a policy and how we're monitoring those in an organization. Again, National Institute of Standard will have RMF special publications in 800, especially 800-53 for access control, CIF for critical infrastructure. When it comes to cloud, we will have cloud security posture management, cloud workload protection, cloud security, cloud assurance security broker for various form of infrastructure. Mr. Subramaniam, welcome. So again, within this, there will be various parameters which we have to look for. We might be using containers, and appropriate solutions are required for containers. Multi-cloud environment will require different solutions. We might require threat modeling and monitor threat based on threat modeling the infrastructure. We might use GitHub or Git in terms of version control system, in terms of application development, Jenkins. So we might not just be monitoring the traditional infra side of it, but a very different playbook and IOC is integrated compromise. We will have to look at the bots which are downloaded for development. We have to obviously look at the containers log coming from the containers which are handling our codes as well. And of course, we have to look at iterative application security, runtime application security, pausing as well, and monitor them as well for what they have to show and how our priority list of incident tickets are managed. Then we have the PLC, DCS, HMIs, and SCADA system tickets. Again, the configuration of the devices, asset health, and hazards comes in. We use infra voice signals in the logs here, where we have to distinguish if it's a pipeline, monitoring a pipeline. In this case, we have to see whether it's a human who's walking around the pipeline, or a vehicle, or a two-wheeler, or somebody is drilling the pipeline. And the whole parameter of security monitoring changes in geothermal sensing. And those aspects have to be brought into the SOC or security monitoring and incident response. And the incident response parameters will also change from that. And all of this is where we bring in monitoring, we bring in incident response, and we bring in forensics, so that these incidents, once they are responded to, do not reoccur, and we do a root cause analysis of these incidents. And this is our SOC, and this is our webinar all about. This is an analysis of what is the spend of top companies in the world. And when we look at this, and we looked at the previous slide, we see there is a major tilt in companies where the maturity level is less, 5,000 odd users. You will see 50% of the spend is on infra security. And then balance is spread across data security, application security, SOC, vulnerability, identity access, and GRC. And as the maturity of the companies go higher, we see that 5,000 to 20,000 users, with 1,000 to 2,000. But servers are more well spread in their expenditure. You get logs coming in with more mature, and there is the larger the size of the company, it's well spread across there. So this is another aspect of things. Obviously, we know that the traditional on-premise kind of solutions are not effective anymore in cloud solutions, especially Microsoft Office 365 solutions. So those logs are of no consequence when it comes to security, because they are not giving the information which is going to help either security incident of that user or for correlation finding out another incident. And we also find that the SOC operations for these companies who are
Sanjay, sorry to disturb you here.
yes,
And Dayanand here. Sorry. Uh, yes, the market is maturing on the SOC. We are just onboarding for 50 user. It's a financial company. Due to the compliance part of it, it may be a 50 user or 1,000 users or 10,000 or 1 lakh. Now everyone are getting into the SOC.
no, absolutely. See, the point is that everybody is getting it SOC, but the fact is that where are the logs coming in from? We see that most the data says that most or the smaller companies are predominantly focused traditionally on infra side of it. The spread of their IT infrastructure in data security, application security, identity and access. In fact, I have found best of the companies not having full-fledged IT identity and access management solutions in, or a privilege access management. They are still relying in the traditional solutions of getting the whole thing working on AD.
Yeah, true.
That is where I was coming from. And then we also find that the smaller companies will have an 8 by 5 SOC, 8 days a week, 5 days, 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, or 16 hours a day, 5 days a week. Uh, Whereas, we might need 24 by 7 monitoring because our adversary might not rest, right? They are global. So that is the other perspective there, Nancy, which I was trying to track bring forth. And these are from various sources. Deloitte has says this, Spiceworks says this, Boston Consulting Group has found this, Insight Integrity says this. So if we are only taking logs from infra and our users are no more working in the office, they're working from everywhere, we are blinded to a lot of stuff. That is very, very important. The purpose of this slide was to bring forth this particular point. Then when we look at the ICS system, we see this that the ICS, again, like IT, has all the ingredients that we have. It has an enterprise layer where we have the which is in Purdue called layer 3.5, where we have the firewalls, the IDSs, and then we have the layer 2.5 where we have the SCADA servers and historian servers. They are like Windows servers which we have. They have antiviruses, right? But the problem which they have is they are legacy systems. They might not support the latest antiviruses as such, and they're connected to the IT system also. And that results in us having infected, systems either at the RTUs or PLCs, or either from the larger infrastructure coming in. These are maintained. These are from companies like Honeywell, Schneider, GE, ABB, Yokogawa, and the maintenance is done by their people. They bring the USB, put the updates, patches, and they go back. But then eventually they are both ways connected. So the vulnerability from this side can go in into the IT, or from the IT laterally moving in, as we have seen in most cases. Black Dragon was a payload created for, as per Lockheed Martin kill chain, to go into this system. Our own uh, Oil India earlier last year was attacked, and for 45 days before it was recognized by the agencies that they were in, they were, the third stage of Lockheed Martin kill chain. They did the reconnaissance phase. They set up the command and control, and then obviously they had a payload, and then they set up a command and control. But by the time we established this, that they had a command and control within Oil India, it was too late, and it originated from IT, moved in laterally, and but the SOC had no visibility of this side. The SOC was taking log all through from the IT system, the IT PCs, the IT servers, the cloud, etc. There was no log coming, and it's a different world itself. So it poses its own threat from that perspective. And it happens because of this particular infrastructure, which is the Purdue model. Yes, right. So while we have the level 0, which is the pumps, the actuators, the drive, or the robots, the level 1 is where some form of control comes in with the RTUs, the PLCs, etc. Level 3 is where the servers actual comes in. So till this layer, none of the IT solutions can work. In fact, most companies I work for globally do not consider anything below this as OT, or anything above this as OT. Anything below this is considered OT, because at least CISO can do something about it. The CISOs predominantly globally do not understand this, or they are understanding it now, but it was out of their jurisdiction as such. So that's another factor. And as we can see that there is this industrial layer zone here where we have the firewalls, where the IT/OT segregation happens, and this is at the layer at which the enterprise, the emails, how much supply, or what is the demand, and what has to produce. All this comes in, and through which we do the batches in here at this level. So this is where the mouth of most companies is. They earn out of this, and this needs to be secured also. We need the logs of these as well. And hence we have this particular architecture. If you look at a larger regional perspective, you're looking at India, other countries, site 1, site 2, site 3, we need to get this logs to our SIEM as well. So that's another solution. We have solutions where you can put a threat intel and then mirror this port and get it here. And these are some of the various standards which come into play when it comes to IT, when it comes to OT, when it comes to cyber physical security, which have to be adopted by companies in order to be effective as such. These are some of the risk management frameworks, ISO 27005, which is into the risk management for information technology, 31000, which provides the risk management guidelines, 27001, NIST, RMF, TARA, Octave. And through this, we can then come up with the policies driven by the standards, come up with a procedure, come up with process, which can be then implemented and monitored as well in our SOC. Some of the laws, we obviously now have our own Indian law in terms of data, but if you are a global company and you are a healthcare company dealing with America, you need Health and Insurance Probability and Accountability Act to be complied with. NERC, North India Electric and Reliability Corporation and Critical Infrastructure Protection. GLBA, Gram Leach Billy Act, PCI DSS, which even in India, most companies have to follow if they are doing payment systems, and then we have to monitor for this also. I see a lot of cases where our Indian Oils of the world, our BPCL of the world, and HPCL of the world, and other private companies in the similar fact are bringing new technologies for downstream petrol pumps for payment. And we have found a lot of incidents when we do vulnerability assessment and penetration testing that there have been payment frauds that have happened at that level. And new technologies integrated with IoTs have been put in the place. So, and you also have to do compliance with PCI DSS. GDPR, of course, is in Europe. COFI is in South Africa. Federal Information Security Act, FIMA is in place, and of course, Sarbanes-Oxley Act is there for the financial sector, or any company doing work on the financial aspects, especially with America. So now let's look at what has happened in the SOC perspective. So typically a SOC operation had automation detection response, but now we have the sandboxing and which is coming in regulatory sandboxing test is picking up intelligence, of course, but then it is doing more granular when it comes to deep dark web threat intelligence, regional threat intelligence, industry threat intelligence, and then data lake is a concept which is running through organizations, not just security anymore, not just SOC anymore, but it's an area of interest of the larger organization as such. And then, of course, analytics comes into picture. User and enterprise behavior analytics is becoming very important. 60% of the attack today, as against in 10 years back, which were 90% of the attack 10 years back were from external sources. So virus, Trojan, malware, all that. 60% of the attack today are from internal sources. That means the people within the organization are source of the attacks. Knowingly, unknowingly, social engineering, but they are the major source. And companies are also very aware that people have mobile phones, which are their personal devices, BYD devices, and on this they have email access of the company. They have confidential data. So again, some form of cryptography on these devices becomes very, very important. Advanced malware protection, servers and data protection, web security, of course, is there, but it is getting a different dimension because the traditional IM ports kind of solutions, which were for on-premise, are not effective for cloud-based email solution or web solution. Application is moving into CI/CD, no app kind of development, no ops kind of development, and we are needing more on our sophisticated tools like statistical analytics, application security, TAST, NIS as you move shift left. So instead of doing testing at the end of an application development and then redoing it if we found a bug or a malware, we do continuous integration, continuous development at the whole life cycle of application development. So testing of security is not just at the end, but at every stage, the build stage, the deploy stage, and of course at the test stage itself. And we bring data modeling and time application security and fuzzing in. Cloud security brings a different element. Now the data or the information of which we are doing the information security is moving from organization and moved into a third party, which is doing it, which is the cloud service provider. There are more requirements in terms of knowing what kind of data you're going to put in public cloud, private cloud, hybrid cloud. And then, of course, infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, software as a service, then you have application getting developed. So solutions like CASB, cloud security posture management, cloud workload protection comes into picture, key management solution. Azure has its own, you might have to use your own key, bring in your own key as well, or for the Gmail, sorry, the Google, or for IBM, or for AWS. You might need separate keys, but you need a vault for that as well. So those are the different solutions you might require. Privilege access management. There are cloud native solutions, but on top of those cloud native solutions, you still need to have a maturity of your own. So, and web application security and multi-factor authentications are some of the solutions which are required, and that requires a different level of logs as well. So typically, these operations included same intel and analysis, but we are now finding that social engineering has become a very predominant factor. So having various exercises for deep dark web intelligence becomes a very, very important integral part of the SOC operation. So the identity access management, adaptive identity and access management, bots identity and access management. If attacks are happening, is Kumarji to mute.
Sumit, Rajesh, can you mute? There are some disturbance. Can you please mute it?
it's gone right now. Hopefully, it stays like that. So essentially, identity and getting logs from identity becomes very, very important. And correlating that identity access with social engineering also becomes very important. For example, if we come to know that a user password has been stolen or his known people passwords have been stolen on social media, it's very likely this person might be compromised. Either his identity is stolen or it would be stolen. So we need to have that monitored for correlation factor also, which becomes very, very important. Again, applications we discussed, we are moving into CI/CD. We are branching the activities, people working on the same code with various parts of the world to GitHub, Jenkins. We need to monitor those as well. We need to also look at various facets or application development. That becomes very, very important as well. And of course, various forms of threat intelligence as we go into the modern SOC, UEBA, machine learning, apart from the same, becomes important from an identity perspective. Have a 360-degree view of identity access, identity governance, multi-factor authentication, single sign-on, and privilege access management. Important. And the key areas, right from cloud, where we need to have various form of solutions, devices where EDR to threat hunting becomes very and it originates from EDR and MDR solution. Cryptography becomes very important, IoT as well. And then we discussed what all the trends which we see in the area of identity and access as well as the SOC area. And then we have the governance and compliance. Third party risk becomes a very important. Third party might be vulnerable, might not have all the security controls, and these risks associated third party might be very large. Might be that the third party has been, there's an M&A happened to your competition. So there are various different points of risk which have to be considered taking that, or there have been indication that there have been very high ticket incidents happening through originating from a third party that needs to be investigated as well and correlated as well. And then of course privacy and regulatory compliances which have to be monitored. Another factor is the sophistication of the attackers. We see three kinds of attackers: recreational attackers, syndicate attackers, and state-sponsored attackers. And we see as we go up, these things have changed. So one of the biggest thing when we look at the book of cybersecurity is everything is done in the context of the organization. Now, the context and criteria of the organization for which our objective for cybersecurity is determined has changed. Without having major change in the business itself, between the war in Ukraine and now, the attackers were here. But what we found and what we find ongoing, and even in the case of Oil India and AIMS, that these attackers have moved from this to state-sponsored. There are countries which are spoofing for data on the deep dark web. They're attacking the countries, and they're very sophisticated. That means the existing controls by the companies and the way we monitoring SOC and indicator components and the purpose for the attacks have changed. And that again is something why CERT also wants this information from the national security perspective to provide it to them within 6 hours of that incident happening, and the logs to be retained for 180 days. And again, we have the SASE architecture challenging the old architecture where we had a fortress with the DMZ, with the antivirus and with the firewalls and IPS and IDSs. We find that our data can be anywhere. The user can be accessing the data centers, possibly, or cloud, public or private, from anywhere. This can be accessed remotely. They can be connecting to the branches, to MPLS as well. Now, we need to provide all those securities that they had traditionally in the office at the place they are working from. So they are boundaryless. So we need to also be cognizant of the fact that the new economy is going to work on internet. Now, internet and the application have is also a factor. Before COVID, we had more of data application. Post COVID, we have video calls, we have audio calls as well. There is online collaboration. That means it is a latency heavy, process that is happening. Any high latency will affect the throughput and the user experience. The new phenomena of user experience comes in, right? Because all this thing of CASB, web security, workload protection, cloud security, encryption, cloud encryption, endpoint protection, all of this is happening in the cloud as a managed security services. Companies like Netscope and Zscaler and so forth and so on are offering these services. But the other fact is that what about Microsoft? Would you go to your data center and then access Microsoft Teams? No, because the call will not happen. So you need to come up with concepts of split tunneling. Split tunneling is something which we used to do in our office. The the load balancer. The load balancer is today sitting in your device. You are doing it from your laptop, at the airport, at the hotel, wherever you are. You are continuously, seamlessly working, providing value add to the company, and helping it to go faster. Companies policies have to change between people working from outside and people coming back to office. And then we have all this identity and access factors which have to be deployed on the go, right? And then the infrastructure as a service and all the other services which are consuming of Office 365, Oracle, SAP, all these have to be consumed. Now the indicator of compromise change, the parameters which we are going to monitor change. So let's look at SOC.
Yeah, I'm sorry to Bhajan. So before we move forward, I just want to hear from you because we have mentioned the SASE and zero trust. Okay,
Yes.
and coincidentally we had the webinar on zero trust last weekend, and I heard SASE is much more advanced than the zero trust. Is that so?
Zero trust is a part of SASE. SASE, Secure Access Service Edge, is a framework which came up with I think Forrester, and within this there are 5 key principles: zero trust,
Okay.
CASB, reverse proxy, and there are 2 more. So zero
Oh.
trust is a part of SASE.
Zero trust is a part of this SASE, is it?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much.
So let's look at the fundamentals of SOC. So SOC is a security management. Security management are typically a set of security activities executed by organization to maintain the security posture. It includes security infrastructure, which comprises of the perimeter security, network security, application security, host security, and data security. We have the security prevention, where we have vulnerability and management and testing of penetration, and compliance and validation, where we baseline our security. What is acceptable level of security, and what is the threshold about which you either transfer it, avoid it, or mitigate it. And then we define the policies to do that, put the audits appropriately, like ISO 27001, 31000, 27005, NIST, or appropriate ones, and ensure that those standards are the compliance is also monitored by us. And all of this under the security operation, we have a same tool, security information event management, where we do the incident detection and reporting. So at a very high level, this is what security management does. Security operation is the continuous operation practice of maintaining, managing IT and OT environment through the implementation, execution of certain process and services. The predefined set of processes and services that are followed during the daily security operation task based on baseline. This might be updating of the patches, defining the priorities, creating new playbooks, etc. In recent security operation, organizations incorporating third aspect of security operation, known as situational awareness, along 2 traditional aspects of security operation: security monitoring and incident response. So security awareness is threat intelligence here plays a vital role, creating awareness, making informed decision, and shaping cybersecurity. Security monitoring collects, storing, analyzing data from different devices and sources. And security incident management resolves security incident and minimal adverse impact. Now, awareness is very, very important. I can't be sitting here. I'm sitting in New Delhi right now, and I can't be at the same time in New York. So that is common sense, right? But this awareness has to be considered when there is a login from two places of the same person. So that is contextualization, right? Logging at odd hours. It's a contextualization. I don't log in at odd hours, right? I don't go to network, certain part of the network in my whole history of as I operate. Or there is intelligence that my passwords have been compromised. There is a very high likelihood it's not me who is logging in. We have to do the contextualization with the awareness of the situation. And again, we had G20 recently. There is a very highly likelihood that there will be more attacks at that point in time. And we have to be aware that there might be new playbooks or new indicator of compromises or new patterns of behavior or anomalies. A dedicated unit is established by organization to handle and manage the security operation known as Security Operations Center, and we call it SOC. Now, this is a special publication, NIST 800-30 Outlook. So we look at threat source, which includes characteristics, capabilities, intent, targeting for adversaries. They initiate this, which is the likelihood, but not likelihood is supposed to be converting into a threat. So we have to see what is the likelihood of this threat event, which is a sequence of action and activities and scenarios leading to an exploitation. Again, this exploitation can happen or might not happen, which is dependent on the controls we have the interest. If there is an existing control, and the level of existing control can define the vulnerability and the severity, right? And then in the context of precondition, prerequisites, which are there in place in our organization, leading to security control, which are plannedly implemented and or effective or ineffective, causing an adverse impact leading to multiplication of impact into likelihood producing damage for the company in terms of the mission, function, image, reputation, organization, assets, or the nation itself. This is a framework through which we look at security operation, right? The likelihood, the impact, and the control. The likelihood into impact, and then we look at control, square root of this, then minus this from the control. If it is less than 2, you accept the risk. If it is more than 2, then you avoid it. If it is very high, you mitigate it. If it is medium, you transfer it, it is medium. What do you give a treatment to this? In absence of this treatment, there is very high likelihood that it is going to take place. And we all maintain the risk register to do this process. So risk traditionally is threat into vulnerability into asset value. Over time, we found that an asset value which will be high for you might not be as important for your adversary because his goal is something else. And we'll look at the motive. Hence, we come into threat into vulnerability or impact and probability factor. And basis this, we look at the severity level in terms of high, medium, low. And basis this, we also look at our response to this attack. The level of risk is consequences into impact, and risk is likelihood of the impact into consequences into severity. Then we have the concept of annual loss expectancy, which is annual loss ARO, annual rate of occurrence, into SLE, single loss expectancy. And return of single security investment, we look at ALE into mitigation ratio minus cost of solution divided by cost of solution. We do this to figure out whether it should be avoided or accepted. And it becomes a risk which is there in a risk register where we have said that we are accepting this particular risk. And it is part of something which is known to us. Then we look at this particular framework in terms of the process to be followed for risk assessment. We prepare for assessment, derive for organization risk framework, whatever risk framework we are following, to conduct an assessment, which includes identifying threat source and events, identifying vulnerability and predisposed conditions, determining the likelihood of those occurrences, determining magnitude of that impact, and determining the risk. Once we have done this, we communicate the result, and then step 4 is maintaining this assessment so that we have continuous improvement in our security posture. Security has to be multi-layered factor. So hence we have to have security in depth, including perimeter, network, servers, end user risk and compliance, and various facets of security taken into consideration. SOC is a centralized unit that continuously monitors and analyzes the organization right from the network, servers, endpoint, database, and application, and provides a single point of view through which an organization assets are monitored and addressed, defending it from the threats. SOC evaluation evaluated on organization security posture for anomalies in its assets and information system. And SOC facilitates the situational awareness, real-time log alerting if any type of intrusion is detected. So a typical architecture or the heart or the framework of the SOC is we have the events on one hand and the contextualization on the other. The event will comprise of operating systems, application, devices, and database, whereas contextualization would be the vulnerability scans and the data, the vulnerabilities we found, user information, asset information, threat intelligence. Both are induced in the SIM, leading to data collection and normalization and correlation and logic rule and aggregation, further giving us a system output of analysis, report, and real-time monitoring. This is how the process flows. You get the logs from the firewalls, the database, the endpoints, the internet, file server, emails, managed servers, routers, switch, etc., and all the different sources. We collect it. They come in different forms and shapes. We normalize this. We do indexing of this, make a database of this, and do correlation with the threat intelligence or our threat hunting or a predisposed form of UEBA, which is fingerprinted the user, and thus creating alerts, reports, query, archiving, and workflow. Once we have done this, we move into the next step. We collect the logs from various devices, networks sent to the SIM. We move it for ingestion, where we have data flows, log data, threat data, contextualization data, analytics, UEBA. In some form, we are getting threat feeds from various sources. And once we have ingested this flow, we look at the various logs and do a triage. Now, if it is a known threat, and these can come through various sources. One is that you do find it out yourself through the SOC monitoring. The second is you get to ITS and tickets from users, right? Third, you might end up getting intelligence about this from certain or other sources, right? The recent Indonesian attack or the Sudan attack, which took place in India on the Indian public sector. So there, again, you validate. Now, the challenge for this is that all tickets cannot be given same priority. You have to define MTTR, mean time to detect, and mean time to respond, and mean time to remediate. Now you have to do P1, P2, P2, P3, P4, priority 1, priority 2, priority 3, priority 4. So we look at the mathematics behind how we're going to do that. But the triage team now validates this. Another thing which the triage team has to overcome is statistically there will be some percentage of false positives. Now, there can be a lot of false positive against true positive. Now, we have to reduce the false positive and then identify the true positive and then attend to the true positive. Once we have done this and then we are clear that this is a security incident, it has to go forward based on priority and then addressed by the responders. Once the responders are responded to it, then possibly, depending on the severity, we will bring a forensic team to find out the root cause analysis or the precondition under which it has happened or to avoid it from happening again. We document all this knowledge in our record so that a risk which has taken place today, which is an issue, should not convert into a risk tomorrow. To avoid this risk tomorrow, we look at this record to have a predisposed understanding so that this issue does not arise or this risk does not become an issue in the future. So that documentation is very important. We also take management into consideration that this also today have another parameter, whereas informing the security agencies, in this case, certain and media. That again becomes a very, very important. And we get threat intelligence where a specific country is attacking India only. If that is the case, then there will be many other agencies which will be involved in the SOC operation. Now, the security maturity model of SOC looks at various aspects. So everything we do is for business. The confidentiality, integrity, availability, safety, control is all about this. If the country wants or the company wants that we have to focus on growth, and it's okay to let go of certain things in terms of quality. So it's very, very important that we look at availability. Right? It becomes paramount that the business has to be available. If I have to sell my stuff across the world, then that server which is hosting my details and the payment gateways have to be available, even if that means that I have to overlook some of the other things. So business drivers are very important. So context of the organization changes in the context of the organization becomes very important. So business drivers are paramount, customers are paramount, charters are important, governance is very important. As the hierarchy goes in an organization from top to bottom, governance goes from bottom to top. We have tactical governance, strategic operational governance, strategy governance. That has to be put in place for this as well, so that we are able to review. The people, we have the CISOs, Chief Information Security Officers, L2, L1 SOC analysts. The new position, which is of threat hunters, has become very, very important. There again, there's two schools of thought. You do it at the EDR level or you do it at SOC level. Obviously, at SOC level, you can do an MDR also, and you can do an NDR also, network detection response on your firewalls, next generation firewalls. Then we have incident handlers and the SOC managers. As far as the process goes, we have the SOC management, operation facilities, reporting, use management, statistical process where we do hypothesis of situations based on intelligence which we have, and do predictive and prescriptive, analytics here to mitigate possible attacks which can happen. And then we have to look at the process of this whole thing. From a technology perspective, we have security incident event management. We have security orchestration automation response, user enterprise behavior analytics, ticketing system like ITSM, and threat intelligence which are used. And from the service perspective, we have security monitoring, security analytics, security threat intelligence, security intelligence management, vulnerability management, and log management, which are the solutions which are used in a SOC. The typical processes in a SOC include the business process. In this process, administrative components are defined and documented for effective functioning of the SOC. Operation is positioned as per the organization objectives. This includes governance, compliance, legal requirement, industry. Technology side is the process actions related to IT infrastructure defined and documented. They ensure that IT infrastructure will be at the best level. Here we have reporting, report preparation, log retention, and all that. An operation process includes the process described in various activities, the roster, how the knowledge will move from each shift will be 8 hours. So when we move from 3 shifts, 8 hours shift in 3 8-hour shifts in a day, the roster has to be maintained. So scheduling of the shift, employee training becomes important. And then the analytical process, we have analytical process explaining the way to detect the remediate security incident, different methods of identifying and understanding the threat surface. This includes the classification of incident, the P1, P2, P3, P4, detection and escalation, ticketing, forensics, and all that. Now, there are different types of SOC. So we have in-house SOC. In-house SOC is a model recommended for organizations that have security issues related to outsourcing. They don't want to outsource, everything has to be there. Government typically is there that they have to have security clearance people. Even if they outsource, they want the person to be sitting after security clearance in their office in a secured location where the sovereignty and the confidentiality of the data can be maintained. Outsourced SOC, it provides robust security solutions. Managed security SOC providers set up the infrastructure and offers threat intelligence and other capability. It has a dedicated team of trained and experienced security. We can leverage economy of scales. You can have people sitting in various cities and states in India or the world, depending on how the operation of the client is, or your own operation. Then a hybrid SOC model. This is a combination of in-house and outsource model where you can have best of the both world. You can have people sitting for monitoring in your office, where the incident handlers can be sitting in Bangalore, Pune, Chennai, Delhi, wherever they are, or any part of the world you want, or the forensic people can be as per your convenience or the chosen geographies you can have forensic people place. This model, the MSSP shares the role and responsibility along with the organization. The types of SIEM, we have an in-house SIEM. The in-house SIEM, customer can buy the software and hardware and manage this. The advantage, it provides full control of the system. It can customize based on organization need. Disadvantage, too expensive to set up and operate. The cloud-based SIEM, in this type of SIEM, customers subscribe to the SIEM service. The SIEM platform is continuously updated. There is no need to depend on third-party maintenance implementation. Disadvantage is the customer will fail to recognize the complete SIEM functionality, and these are typically cloud-based SIEMs from Microsoft or Splunk as well. Then managed SIEM, this type of SIEM is implemented on on-premise and cloud. Advantage is it removes the load of hiring, training, keeping specialized personnel as it comes with advanced technology and skilled people. And disadvantage is the data security is managed by a third party. If a company selects a wrong service provider, it can be a risk for them. Then we have the SOC maturity model, which is looking at the governance tools to explain the organization working and process. Here we have SOC capability maturity model, control objective for information COBIT, National Institute of Standard NIST security framework, and system security engineering capability maturity model SSE CMM, which can be utilized. Now we move from the larger gambit of security to SOC, security monitoring, to incident response. So incident response includes TTP, technique, tactics, and procedures. Attackers try various attacking techniques to exploit vulnerability in computer systems or security policy and controls to achieve their motive. The tactic, techniques, and procedure, TTP, refers to the pattern of activities, methods associated with specific threat actors or group of threat actors. Now, tactics is defined as strategy followed by attackers to perform an attack from beginning to end. For example, it consists various tactics of information gathering, reconnaissance phase in Lockheed Martin kill chain, for example, gathering initial exploitation information, perform privilege escalation, perform lateral movement, deploy measures of persistent access to the system. Techniques is defined as the technical method used by attacker to achieve intermediate result during the attack. For example, the techniques include initial exploitation, setting up and maintaining the command and control channels, access the target infrastructure and cover tracks through exfiltration. And procedure is defined as an organization approach followed by threat actor, or an organized approach followed by threat actor to launch an attack. For example, a procedure of gathering an actor collects information about the target. This can be through social engineering, and identifies key target and employees, collects contact details, identified vulnerabilities in system, potential entry points to the target systems, and documents all collected information. This can be through social media as well. So let's look at this motive. A motive originates out of notion to target systems and process has become valuable and leads to threat to a system. And it is a goal, the TTPs and vulnerability. It is very important because the motive for recreational attackers as against a syndicate, as against a country which is trying to attack another country, might be very different. This will be, business might have a discussion about business continuity, but a different kind of goal for business continuity. We saw the attack on Indian transportation system, the Indian power system. The goal was to disrupt a wartime situation, to disrupt the economy of that country. Then we have information theft, manipulation of data, creating fears and chaos by dumping critical infrastructure, financial loss to the target, damaged reputation target, taking revenge or demanding ransom. Now, if you are clear about the motive, then you can put your effort towards your forensics and the incident response in the right direction. Otherwise, we have seen over the years when the sophistication of the attackers move from recreational attacker to a syndicate to a state-sponsored attacker, they are camouflage. They are attacks which are done for camouflage because the incident response team is busy in that firefighting, and there is a different goal. So we need to know this TTPs, and we need to know the motive of the attack so that we are addressing the attack at the right level, at the right sophistication to meet the sophistication of the attackers and the intent of their attack. Then we have indicator of compromise. Indicator of compromise are the clues, artifacts of forensic data that is found on a network or operating system of an organization that indicates a potential intrusion or malicious activity in an organization. Indicator of compromise act as a good source of information about threat that serves as a data point in incident triage process. A SOC analyst needs to perform various continuous monitoring to effectively and efficiently detect, respond to evolving. So some of the important IOCs are, it helps SOC analysts in detecting data breaches, malware intrusion, attacks, or other threat activities. Assist SOC analysts in knowing what happened about that attack, and then helps to improve response time as well as upgrade the detection rate of the threat. Provide SOC analysts with data feed that can be fed into organization auto response mechanisms. Helps analysts in finding answers to the questions like, does the file consist of malicious content? Is the organization network compromised? How did network get infected? What is the history of specific IP address? Then we have the cyber kill chain by Lockheed Martin. It's very important to understand this when you are doing SOC incident response and monitoring. The kill chain includes the recognition space where in this space, our attacker is trying to collect information about weaponization stage where he might be sending spear phishing mails, a lot of network spoofing, delivery where he will eventually end up sending up emails to that person and that the payload is delivered, exploitation, to that system, establishing command and control of the system, and then exploitation, removing its track. Now, this from a security perspective is important that when you do prioritization of your tickets and you find that there's a port scanning, the port scanning is a recognition and probing phase as per the Lockheed Martin kill chain. The attacker is still outside, he's trying to find information. It's a low priority if you have multiple tickets coming in, as against a ticket which includes malware infection, where the delivery attack phase of the last Lockheed Martin kill chain slide has taken place. So it's a low and medium priority. Distributed denial of service is where he's already in the system, he's exploiting, installing, and he's trying to make sure that there is no help available for the response team. So it's a very high priority. It has to be addressed on priority. Similarly, unauthorized access. Again, it's a sign that there has been an identity theft. So it's an exploitation installation phase, and it's a medium priority, and so forth and so on. The insider breach is a high priority because the system compromised, the user is already, or the attacker is already in the system. So this is one way of classification of your ticket for incident response. Then we also use the impact into the likelihood formulas to look at the severity. So we multiply the difference likelihood into the impact, and then define whether, for example, if the impact is having 100 score and the likelihood is 1, we get a score of 100 by multiplying to 2, as against if the likelihood of something happening is low, even though the impact is high, we find that the score is 10, and our response to the ticket having or the severity having 100 score will be higher. So this is one fundamental solution. We also add to the equation the controls which we have for them, and what would those controls contribute in the impact of this particular threat. Then we have the log systems. We have various forms of logs. Centralized log is one of the ways of doing it. We do collect log, and this process of collecting log from various sources is log collection. Transmission is to store the logs at centralized location, and then these are transmitted through syslog and UDP, or syslog TCP and encryption syslog, etc. Log storage, on the other hand, are various devices stored in central repository database. Stored database can be retrieved structured way when needed. Log normalization is the process of accepting this log from heterogeneous sources with different formats, converting them into a common format. And correlation, on the other hand, is the process of matching series of normalized log data to determine a set of related events based on certain set rules. Log analysis, on the other hand, are identified patterns and anomalies in correlated data that signifies the activity of intrusion attempt on the policy violation. Alerts and reporting are generated alerts which are sent to the user if a suspicious event has occurred. in terms of the logs or calculated metrics. The process of this whole incident response move from preparation of an incident response. Once we have prepared, we do incident recording. Here we identify, classify this whether it's an incident response or a false positive. If it is a false positive, then we stop the process there. But if it is a true positive and it is an incident response, we assign into an incident response team. Now there is a triage team that comes into existence thereafter. So the triage team now looks at the incident, analyzes it, validates it, and then looks at the incident classification. So P1, priority 1, priority 2, priority 3, priority 4, which we have looked in the previous slides, which we have done based on our Lockheed Martin kill chain and based on the severity into likelihood, and hence coming up into the formula of impact. And we do the incident prioritization basis, leading us to a further notification. Now, each incident will be, apart from the IT department and the information security, which will be sitting inside the IT department, will belong to a department. It might be the HR department, finance department, operation department, legal department. So we have to intimate now that particular department at this stage. Once we have given intimation to that particular department, and we have a nod, we look at containment, evidence gathering. At all this stage, we are maintaining the chain of custody so that we can run forensic later. We involve the forensic department and start the extradition, do a recovery, do incident documentation, incident impact response, review, revise policies, and close the incident, and then inform the appropriate bodies to whom we have to disclose this. At this time, this has to happen at 6 hours in India, within 6 hours of identification. So we would have formulated a nodal officer who will be coordinating at either over email or through a set process with Central Emergency Response Team of Government of India. Again, triaging alerts, we have various kinds of situations. We have a false positive, an alert raises an alarm when no attack has occurred. It means no malicious activity is identified as dangerous. Positive, an alert alarm when legitimate attack occurred, and false negative, no alert is raised when negative legitimate attack occurred. It means malicious activities are not recognized. True negative is an alert will not raise an alarm when no attack is detected. It means non-malicious fight is rejected successfully. So we have a L1, which looks at the triage alert, creates use cases and triage alerts. We have an L2 in a SOC, which is a SOC analyst, investigates the scope and impact, and declares an incident. Once he has declared it an incident, we have an incident handler who comes into play, remediates, and closes the ticket. Now, as we understand, if we are dealing with a large company, there will be various stakeholders, communication laterally, communication up, communication down, to external interested parties, internal interested parties have to happen. There can be more than one IT service provider as well. So we need to manage this. So this will include incident response team having to, have communication with the infrastructure and support vendor. It can be an outsourced vendor if you're doing a risk transfer. This can be your own company as well. And there can be multiple of them. Somebody managing your data center, somebody managing your infrastructure, somebody managing your SOC itself, somebody managing your end user computing. And whoever jurisdiction, this might be various parts of the world as well. So there's various jurisdiction as well. So those have to be taken into account. The customer, constitution, and media will have to be factored in depending on the laws. Other incident response teams, there might be a larger incident response team within the organization, department-wise as well. Those have to be communicated and dealt with. The internet service provider, the ISP, how the information is handled here has to be very critical because it can be having an impact on the reputation of the company if the information goes out, and appropriate measures have to be taken. Law enforcement agency, in our case, it is certain or NCPII, has to be informed, and the incident reporters have to be handled. We also have to make sure that how the logs are shared between the third-party vendors, the owner of the assets, and that mechanism also has to be defined. This is a video in terms of QRadar SOC. I'll skip this for now. Is there any questions so far from anybody? We are moving into the next phase of evolution of the SOC, and I'll be happy to answer any question. If no question, I'll move ahead. So we have cyber threat intelligence, where we have strategic threat intelligence, tactical intelligence, operational intelligence coming into play at various levels. The strategic intelligence sources are OS&IT, CTI vendors, etc. And those are at a business level, strategic level we define. Technical threat intelligence collects source from the campaign reports, malware incident reports, attack group reports, human intelligence report. It produces a high level of technical information reports such as malware, campaign tools. It helps cyber professionals to understand how the adversary is expected to perform attack on the organization. Operational threat intelligence. This form of intelligence provides information about specific threat. Is generally used for security managers, head of incident response, network defenders, security forensic, threat detection teams. The source of our human social media and chat. Threat intelligence help us to prepare, protect, detect, and respond. So prepared, we will be able to harden organization cyber attacks and make it more cost effective to do so. We collect and process the information, enrich the analysis, and protect it by the means of obtaining knowledge, visibility into the attack, other security incident, using monitoring and analytics to detect both known and unknown vendors, collaborate and share, enhance automation incident response, and detect where by now we are able to protect and know how the threat defines the strategy and the target capabilities, enrich our analysis and threat integration. And in the response side, now how to respond to incident and breaches, perform recovery effectively, threat model understanding, and automation of security. Threat hunting, on the other hand, is where we create an hypothesis, and hunt starts by creating an educated guess about various types of activities into IDs. This might possibly that you have detected your EDR has detected a WannaCry or Peta virus. Now we want to find an analysis of whether this is spread across a geography or geographies or continent or continents. So the analysis is linked to data analysis and effective techniques for laying out data in understandable ways. This includes visualization, statistical analysis, and machine learning. Then we look at patterns, discovering new malicious patterns, new constructs, complex attacks, paths to reveal, and attacker tactic, techniques, and procedures. Now, this might be that there is a encrypted malware. Now, we want to study the patterns of the malware. We are going to hunt for those kind of malwares across our network. And then there is analysis, information and enriching automated analysis is key to successful hunt. Ensure to record and leverage new finding and encourage encoding during the hunting. This is an example of a recent attack which happened on the Indian government critical infrastructure. I think this is a Sudanese attack or the Indonesian attack. These are the IP addresses where the attack took place, and these are the hashes. So first advisory that goes in is to block these IP address and then do hunting for these particular hashes to avoid any attack or incident happening to the organization. Then we have the EDR, endpoint detection and response, which is a tool technology platform that can alert security team of malicious activity, enable faster investigation, containment of endpoint attacks. An endpoint can be an employee workstation, laptop, server, cloud system, or mobile system. And this particular threat detection response provides visibility to the network traffic, user activity, along with correlation of activities, signaling suspicious behavior, reducing false positive, provide full context of rapid and effective triage possibility. Another thing about EDR is log aggregation analysis. EDR solution integrate machine learning into threat detection, includes anomaly detection and artificial intelligence. EDR can help conduct log management using available data, keep data analytics, deep malware and anomalies. In terms of automation, it enables custom remediation of workflow that are applied automatically when similar incident reoccur. Finding root cause of detection and remediation, prevention, investigation, and then threat hunting. A lot of advanced version of EDR support, providing threat hunting, validating indicator of compromise, remediating action, and enabling analytics to hunt for threat across the environment and uncovering the hidden attack instance. Hunt for indicator of attacks based on behavior rules or threat intelligence. Then we have SOAR, which is security automation and security orchestration and automation response. This is a technology that enables us to monitor, and automate a lot of processes. Create a dashboard. SOAR helps teams to make jump from simple collecting security-related data to streamlining security operation by using playbooks to automate many of the tasks. This includes process automation, implementing custom incident response workflow automation, automated repeated response workflow, reduce mean time response significantly, incident response playbook. Here we can upscale analysts and accelerate investigation with pre-built course of action, save time for high priority triage, and customized dashboard tasks based on analytics, based on departments, based on geographies, based on threats, enable security teams to easily connect with security tools with simplified abstract layer. This is awareness which we try to avoid there. And then UEBA, which is, as I said, 60% of the attack are now happening through insider. So user and behavior analytics offers profiling and anomaly detection based on range of analytics approach, usually using combination of basic analytics methods and advanced analytics. So we do behavior baselining, compliance, and analytics. Amit, Pradeep, are you using any of these in your SOC, or what is your view on these? Pradeep, you're saying something we're not able to.
No, actually, I'm just seeing this UEB and user identity behaviors articles.
So have you come across this? Are you using this so far?
No, previously we used for the banking.
I see.
Yeah. When I was in Nigeria, we used this technology for the Taj Bank.
I see, sir.
Yeah.
So now that 60% of attackers are there, this technology becomes important. In fact, I have come across companies where they are now using, of course, SOAR is there for automation. They're using UEB also for machines. So humans, they are doing the fingerprinting over 6 months, and machine they're doing seasonality index of 1 to 2 years, so that they can see remotely what was the production last year, same season, and what is the production year, and whether the machine has got compromised or system has got compromised.
Yeah.
And then we have cloud, right? We have CASPM, Cloud Security Posture Management, Cloud Assurance Security Broker, Cloud Workload Protection. As we go on cloud, our control on the infra and the apps goes lesser and lesser. And then we also want to figure out whether the cloud itself has the right security in place, the cloud security operator. So obviously we want to have a CSA star certificate to be seen for that particular vendor, where the audit is done for them as well. But we ourselves are wanting to look at the compliance assessment, operation monitoring, DevSecOps integration, risk identification, UEBA, policy enforcement, threat intelligence. And when it comes to CWPP, we want to look at the exploit protection, application whitelisting, system integrity, network segmentation, system monitoring, and workload. So there are different dynamics which comes with the cloud, which we want to look at. And of course, the key management system, the privilege access management, identity access governance in the cloud is something which you want to look at. So security is not just what we monitor. We also monitor for compliance in a SOC. So while we are looking at, on the one hand, all the security operation, we want to correlate and find out whether the compliance are also, being looked at. We want to conduct forensics and we want timely alert. If you are a CISO of a global bank, you might want an SMS alert at all hours to you so that you're aware. You don't need mechanism where decisions are made fast so that it doesn't spread within the organization. And we also seen that there are various evolution of the SOC over time. And now we have find that it's moved to a correlation, big data security analytics space, having threat intelligence and comprising of consumption of cloud logs, apart from other workflow and IoT as well. And we see that as we move from level 1 to level 4, there are maturity of the SOC moves up. Right from a preventive, we get into a proactive SOC where we have threat intelligence, vulnerability, user behavior analytics, and EDR kind of solutions. Moving to predictive SOC, where we have threat modeling, stimulation, global security incident, workbench integrated to the business function as well. And then we move to a dynamic SOC using automated security incident, automated security incident response, proactive threat hunting, and then to industry integrated SOC, industry 4.0 integrated SOC, having IoT, policy as a code, and big data analytics. And as we move from a low context or reactive SOC to a high proactive SOC, we find that the efficiency increases. There is a high mean time to detect, or there is a low mean time to detect, low mean time to respond, highly analytical, enriched data, and then there is a complete automation, reducing the time, increasing the efficiency of operations. And as we go forward, data coming in from various sources, video data coming in from IoT as well. So we will have induction of blockchain, which will help us in scenarios of non-repudiation. Blockchain can get the logs from the access card, physical security as well, CCTV as well, and the computer logs. So if somebody goes into the office, his log of walking in the office through his access card, through the CCTV camera capturing on the physical security, and him logging in, booting into a system, and then looking at taking snapshot of screenshot of confidential data can lead to these three events to an incident and can avoid the non-repudiation, because here you have complete evidence in hand. That can be possible through bringing blockchain. We looked at CI/CD, where we can have right from the plan stage, the threat modeling, the policies, analyzing and predicting the security logs and governance defined, which can be monitored by the operation team on the right. And then we have the code, we look at the code abuse cases. At the code stage, at the build stage, we are looking at various testing that has to take place, the code, or some form of statistical analysis here as well. And then, of course, testing, we do IS and SIS and DAS and code review, fuzzing, software composition analysis, and finishing testing. Once we release this, we look at compliance validation. We obviously are also monitoring for the containers itself, whether the containers are secured. And then we have the red teams with our security monitoring team available. Point of view that we should have logs come from all sources: the endpoint, network, cloud, application, OT, IoT, physical security. They should not go directly to SIEM. Instead, they should be put into a centralized data lake, retained there for fingerprinting for human 6 months and machine a year and a half for the first time, and then conduct hunting, analytics, intelligence, and we have better detection, prevention, response, remediation, and investigation of the SOC. So again, where we bring in cyber physical security factor also and the compliance factor also in terms of the SOC process which we discussed and lead to monitoring. These are some of the metrics: mean time to detect, mean time to acknowledge, mean time to respond, remediate, mean time to recover and restore, mean time to failure, and mean time to listening. So some of the other things which we, as per SANS, is that once we have done that metrics, we also look for the number of incidents, number of incident flows, the repeatability of the incidents, time to discover, downtime, the losses which we have had in terms of the incident, and in the losses occurred as against what could have been prevented, to look at the effectiveness of the SOC itself. So at the end, I would like to just mention this, that it's a holistic thing. It's a negative goal, but we need to monitor for confidentiality, integrity, and availability. We need to look for compliance, privacy, and governance. And depending on the nature of the business and the context of the business, also look at safety. So with that, I bring my presentation to a rest. I am open to any question. Pradeep, Amit, Rajesh, Subramaniam ji. Any questions from your side, sir?
Sanjay, so far I don't have any questions with me.
Okay, Rajesh. So my presentation is over. If no questions, then we can wind up the webinar. Thank you very much, Subramaniam ji, Rajesh ji, Amit ji, and Pradeep ji, for participating in this webinar. I highly appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, Mr. Sanjay. This is very well elaborated session. We never expected for this kind of brief explanation about that security monitoring and incident response. And thank you so much. And thank you so much for behalf of Tubulas. I'm just telling you, this is quite a very good webinar. We have so far we didn't get such kind of webinars we attend. And thank you so much, Sanjay. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Good evening.
Yeah, we will be just winding up this webinar now. Thanks for all for attending this webinar.